Hi, and welcome to Chateau Farquhar. I'm Sean, and this is Sheer Luck, the comedy book test. First and foremost, I want to take a moment to thank you for your support of College Fund Productions. My wife and I and my daughter Hannah really thank you. And I'd also like to congratulate you on this purchase. In my humble opinion, I think this is one of the better pieces of magic I've created in my entire career. In 1988, a gentleman by the name of David Downs, in the magazine The Linking Ring, published a magic effect as part of a silent moral parade, and he called it the comedy book test. I didn't discover it there, but he did write it up first. In fact, in 1989, a friend of mine, Kirk Charles, author of that brilliant book, The Complete Guide to Restaurant and Walk-Around Magic, performed it at Stan Kramian's Northwest Country Magic Jamboree. And I didn't see it all there either, but I did see the end of it. 23 years before I came up with the idea, Kirk Charles was presenting the effect as I walked into the hall, and all I saw was the ending of it. But I could hear the laughter, and I saw the scenario of two people standing back to back with pocketbooks that were identical, and it stayed in my head. Years later, in 2012, in Batavia, New York, at the 4F convention, I stumbled across a set of pocketbooks. These are the Harlequin romance, The Surprise of Her Life. I bought it not to do a book test, but to do a joke originally. And in the end, well, it became that book test. There I was standing on stage with David Stone, back to back, him looking through one book and me sticking the other book out of my pocket, and the audience at 4F roaring and cheering. After the show was over, I had to go back through my head to discover all the information I just told you. I found out in my head I knew that I'd seen a magician. So I went through all my notes and my books until I found a little note that said Kirk Charles, 2 books. I contacted Kirk and asked him about it, and he explained exactly what it was, and well, it was exactly what I presented. And so I said, well, inadvertently I performed something that I think belongs to you. And he informed me it didn't belong to him, that he'd read it in the Linking Ring magazine. If you don't know what a Linking Ring magazine is, that means you're not a member of the International Brotherhood of Magicians. And I have a question for you. Why not? You should join it. In fact, from 2014 to 2015, I'll be the president of the International Brotherhood of Magicians. And I can tell you it's a phenomenal organization and well worth belonging to. We have over 10,000 members worldwide. And the Linking Ring, the official publication, is a brilliant publication. Each and every month, the parade section, either done by an individual or by a group, is filled with magic you'll be able to use. Well, enough of the commercial. In 1988, Kirk Charles found in the June issue this parade by Silent Mora. And in there, David Downs wrote up a trick he called the comedy book test. So I owe all of this to the inspiration of David Downs and to the help of my friend Kirk Charles and to David Stone, who inspired me to go out and find something funny to do for him. But what you have in your hands is nothing like the comedy book test from 1988. You see, in that one, it was more of a paper balls over the head like Slidini or Corinda's Power of Darkness. There was no real magic. It was a moment where you fool a single spectator in front of an audience. And I like those, don't get me wrong. I do paper balls over the head. I do Corinda's Power of Darkness. But once I had these books, I wanted to create something stronger. And I couldn't do it with these books. So I got a different set of books. I went to a publishing house, a Vanity Press, and I made my own book because I needed an ending, something a little bit different. Now, before I go on to what the something different is, I should explain why I picked this book. I love The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. This is not the full Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. It would be over 400 and some odd pages. This is less than 200 pages. But I needed it to be small enough to fit inside my breast pocket. And so I had this published at a Vanity Press. Oh, why did I pick it? Not just because I like Sherlock Holmes, but because it's royalty free. Oh, okay, more than that. I picked it because of the author, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I love to tell stories when I do my magic, and if I can share something truthful and fun, it's even more engaging to the audience. Here's a piece of tidbit information you may or may not know. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Harry Houdini were very close friends. They were for years, until Harry Houdini began debunking spiritualists. When he began to debunk spiritualists, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, whose wife was deeply involved, slowly distanced himself from Harry Houdini. It's amazing to think that a man as clever as Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who could create such a logical character. In fact, arguably one of the most logical characters of all times in literature. Well, next to Spock. Oh, that's a joke I do, by the way, in the show. It identifies the Trekkie people so that you don't have to do any more jokes for them because they don't laugh at anything. It's arguably interesting to note that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, such an intelligent individual, would believe in the spiritualists of the time that were so easily debunked by Houdini with luminescent gauze and double layer photography. But it's a wonderful thing to be able to share in the presentation that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Houdini were great friends. So I had this book printed, but not just one copy. I had 2 copies made. And they're both identical because you need the 2. And then I needed the ending. And the ending was not just to go, look, I have a book. But instead, as the spectator turned around, I would hide my book and then talk for a second and then reveal the book. But instead of revealing this one, I'd reveal this one, another book. And in this book, the pages are all blank except for the page number and the name Sherlock Holmes. This had strong impact, but there was a small problem with it. I had to travel with 2 pocketbooks inside my left breast pocket for the entire show. And because there are 2 books, it takes up a considerable amount of room, and it's very difficult to get one book in and the other book out. And it's a little confusing which book went in and which book is coming out. On top of it, it didn't fool everybody, because the moment the book went out of sight, some people thought I switched it. And when I brought the book back out, even more people thought I switched it. And so one out of about every 30 people would come up to me afterwards and go, that was pretty cool, but I know when you put the book in your pocket, you just brought out a blank one instead. And so I went back to the drawing board. I wanted a way to not have to put the book away. I wanted a way to be able to read from the book and at the same time show the book blank. My first idea was a coloring book principle. But to be honest, the pages would have been twice as thick or half as thin, and then they might show through, and it became quite a confusing thing. I always believe in STEP principle, stick to easy principle. And so I discarded these books, and I got a better idea. I decided I would produce my own book in a very unique way. Now, these books are absolutely beautiful. I love the cover work. It was done by a young lady by the name of Rochelle Donald. Commissioned her. She created the fronts. The backs are very subtle, and I created them with a nice satin finish so that they don't glare against the spotlight. In one book, there is 202 pages completely filled with text, but it's not all different text. In fact, the first 53 pages are different, and then the next 50 pages repeat, repeat, and repeat. So there's a block of 52 different pages. And then this page is actually, on page 53, is page number 3. And it repeats again at 103. At 103, it will be exactly the same as on page 53 and on 3. And it repeats that way through. So I only have to subtract by 50, I should say, on each one to get to where I need to be. So if the spectator has this book and they're going to page 72, I'm actually just going to page 22. So to perform this, I use my special book, and they get the specially printed book. My special book is special in a different way. The second book looks blank. It only has the page numbers and the word Sherlock on them until you get to the front of the book. And the first 52 pages are the printed pages just as they repeat in this book. Yes, all I have to do is hide this book inside my breast pocket and give them this book. Now, during this presentation, I always have the spectator to my left so that when it begins, I give them the book and I say we should turn back to back, shoulder to shoulder, so that the audience sees my profile. And I tell them the reason we're standing back to back, cheek to cheek, so to speak, is to ensure there's no way I can look over their shoulder, because any movement of me moving in any direction, they would notice. So once we're back to back and they have their book in their hand, they can name any page number they want to. When they do, all I'm going to do is reach in and remove my book from inside my coat. Once I have my book, it's a very simple matter. to look at the first few pages, subtract by blocks of 50 to know which page they're on, and only keep the cover towards the audience. If I were to do this, so I was on the other side, and we were standing back to back this way, when I opened the book, the audience would see into the book. They would see text, and this is not what I want them to see. So it's imperative that I stand stage right. And I open the book so that the audience is seeing the cover. Now let's say they went to 71. I know I'm going to page 21. So I'll open up my book to page 21, and then I can ask them all sorts of things like, would you like me to tell you how many paragraphs there are? It's easy for me to look now and see on page 21 there are 4 paragraphs. And the last paragraph is just a single line that says, what is it? That will freak them out. Then I'll tell them the first paragraph is actually in the middle of a paragraph and it begins with the words, the 2 crimes. And I can continue to say lots of things. And usually at that point, I'll rapidly read off at least 5 or 6 lines right out of the book. And as I do this, the audience will be roaring, laughing, because they can see I'm reading a book. At that point, I begin to thumb through until I hit a blank area. And I put my index finger in and I drop the book to my side, just out of view of the spectator as they turn around. As they turn around, I look them straight in the eye and I say, wasn't that amazing? They'll freak out. They really will, because they believe you've just done it from your mind. And a wonderful line to say is, I've memorized the entire book. Every page, every paragraph, every sentence, every word. It sounds so amazing that you have this incredible memory to remember every single word of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Once I've said, wasn't that amazing? They'll say yes, and I say, it's almost like I had a book of my own and I was reading from it. And I bring it up into view. Now the audience gets to laugh a second time, sharing in the joke. And this person laughs, realizing that they were taken. It's the end of the paper balls, but the beginning of the magic. At this moment, I open up the book so that the spectator helping me, my volunteer, can see, and I begin to thumb through the book so that they can see the pages are all blank. I do this for one specific reason. I want the audience to see their reaction, because their reaction is how they're going to react. They learn how to react by seeing this person's. So when this person up here starts to freak out because they see they're all blank pages, the audience is wondering what they're seeing. I can then just drop the book straight down and start thumbing through it upside down, still showing the pages, and say all the pages are blank. And I can continue to do almost 2/3 of the book. As long as I stop before page 52, I'm safe. So I can go like this, show these, show those, show lots of them. I can even flip it back this way, so I'm showing lots of blank pages, and I'm all done. The audience gets to freak out. The volunteer is there. I get to take their book back. I place the 2 books together. I put them down. I'm clean. I have nothing inside to worry about. And if I put their book on top of my book and I leave them to the side, maybe later some person will come up and want to look. Well, I'll just slap their hand. But at least I'll have a little bit of time to get to them because the other book is on top. Basically, that's all the workings, that's all the tips, the little tricks to make sheer luck work. Very simple, very straightforward. As long as you can subtract by 50, you'll know exactly where you are. In the hundreds, it's very simple. Once you get past 152, all those numbers, very simple. You'll be able to do it in a heartbeat. Have a lot of fun with this. I hope you've enjoyed it. And send me an email. And don't forget to register your sheer luck, because if I have other thoughts or ideas on this product, I'll give them to you free. That's always my promise. Keep well, keep busy, and most of all, be happy.